Someone suggested the twins change their hairstyles to easily tell them apart, but she adamantly refused. Her sister agreed that she also lacked the desire to cut her locks, asking her opinion. Standing silently in the tense atmosphere, they hesitated while contemplating the unfair situation unfolding before them. Reflecting on the painful past, she solemnly revealed that her long hair was stolen away first. Everyone immediately sided with Stella, resulting in the unjust confiscation of her cute accessories and color. This favoritism occurred simply because her older sister Stella was the protagonist of this otome game. As someone asked what was wrong with her, Mimosa solemnly acknowledged her own unfortunate tragic identity. She somberly accepted that she was nothing more than the poorly constructed little sister supporting character. Looking at Stella with a heavy heart, she admitted her sister could flawlessly execute everything better. Despite acting incredibly selfish and fickle, those exact flaws somehow transformed Stella into a charming girl. Mimosa realized through returning memories that she was an adult woman long before this unfortunate reincarnation. She recognized this vibrant world as the exact setting of the pure love maiden night game. This environment was Naitoto, a romance-driven role-playing adventure designed specifically for a female gaming audience. Characters aim to become spirit knights alongside guardian spirits while Stella eventually earns the holy title. Understanding the harsh reality, Mimosa sorrowfully confessed that she was destined to be a sacrificial character. She constantly clung to Stella while trying to obstruct her path, failing miserably every single time. Realizing her unbelievably grim destiny, she noted in horror that her demise occurs midway through the story. Returning focus to the miserable present, she devastatingly acknowledged that her classmates were currently bullying her. A cruel classmate mockingly commanded her not to use strong words like bullying to invoke pity. Adding insult to injury, Stella arrogantly told Mimosa to simply try her best to emulate perfection. Mimosa fiercely questioned whether she should quietly watch her hateful sister easily achieve glory without hardship. Clenching her fists with deep resentment, she angrily declared absolute hatred for that doomed future outcome. Realizing the immediate urgency, she determined that avoiding utter destruction required handling one major problem beforehand. Glaring at the chaotic classroom, she prepared her fragile mind for the incoming wave of torment. Her tormentors maliciously scribbled cruel symbols on her desk while she endured the relentless emotional abuse. Staring at the hostile environment, she noted the severe bullying against her was escalating to dangerous levels. She horrifiedly recounted the relentless torment, mentioning how insults, sharp blades, and glass shards were utilized. Narrowing her eyes suspiciously, she deduced that one specific guy was probably orchestrating the vicious attacks. That malicious mastermind was Abel, Stella's beloved childhood friend and a capture target in the game. Mimosa furiously questioned why she suffered one-sided bullying simply because she stubbornly refused to praise Stella. Overwhelmed by deep frustration and sorrow, she desperately searched her lonely surroundings for any emotional support. Crying out with genuine relief, she addressed Cairo as her most trusted friend of the heart. Finding comfort in her companion, she proudly declared that possessing her precious guardian spirit prevented loneliness. Turning her hopeful gaze toward the ethereal creature, she anticipated a comforting response from her ally. Noticing a sudden strange shift in her spirit companion, Mimosa nervously asked Cairo what was wrong. Cairo suggested eliminating everyone inside the classroom, prompting Mimosa to furiously scream that such violence was unacceptable. Staring in utter disbelief at her corrupted guardian, she felt an overwhelming wave of terrified desperation. Mimosa formally apologized to herself, internally delivering the incredibly sad news concerning her beloved spiritual half. Trembling with deep sorrow, she observed that her guardian companion had already completely fallen into darkness. Suddenly, an unfamiliar voice echoed sharply through the room, demanding to know what caused the loud commotion. She nervously turned around, acknowledging the unexpected presence of Abel looming right behind her. Abel coldly reminded the frightened girl that absolutely no one was coming to rescue her. Narrowing his eyes suspiciously, he aggressively questioned if she had secretly snitched to Stella recently. He arrogantly demanded she lie to her family about the severe bullying being a mere misunderstanding. Glaring defiantly at her tormentor, she boldly asked if he was completely out of his mind. She fiercely questioned what kind of world forced victims to blame themselves for being cruelly bullied. Enraged by her unexpected defiance, the bullies aggressively cursed at her for suddenly acting so cocky. They viciously mocked her gloomy nature while comparing her to Stella to justify their cruel bullying. Refusing to back down, she firmly declared the perpetrators were entirely responsible for the unjust bullying. Shouting with intense emotion, she bravely confessed she had never once wanted to become like Stella. Pushed beyond her limits, the desperate girl violently stumbled backward as the dangerous conflict rapidly escalated. Hitting the cold ground hard, she braced herself as the overwhelming situation grew incredibly chaotic. Desperation flooding her senses, she instinctively cried out for someone to finally step in and help. The echoing scream lingered in the tense air while everyone froze in sudden shock and silence. Realizing the gravity of her actions, she silently reflected on finally raising her suppressed voice. She sadly admitted she once foolishly believed silently enduring her suffering would eventually bring a reward. Reclaiming her past life memories, the brave young girl firmly recognized the harsh reality surrounding her. Acknowledging her total isolation, she accepted she lacked the precious time to wait for non-existent help. Standing up with newfound determination, the fierce girl mentally prepared herself to face the incoming challenges. Pondering her immediate future, she thoughtfully wondered what crucial steps she truly wanted to take next. Recalling a treasured memory, she remembered someone noting her exceptionally high and powerful affinity with spirits. The warm memory reminded her to cherish this truly wonderful talent required for becoming a knight. She deeply valued her spiritual affinity since it was the only magical talent anyone ever praised. Smiling softly at the thought, she recalled the strongest holy knight in the country praising her. Gently calling out to Cairo, the hopeful girl sought reassurance from her fiercely loyal guardian spirit. Asking if they could succeed, she immediately felt confident they would definitely be completely fine together. Knowing she created a definite turning point, she confidently believed she could change her deadly future. Considering crushing Stella's arrogant pride, the vengeful sister pondered taking away just one incredibly important thing. Setting her ultimate goal, the determined girl decisively planned to steal Stella's future holy knight position. Staring silently into the tranquil surroundings, the determined young girl prepares herself for an intense spiritual awakening. Focusing her inner energy completely, she gathers her thoughts while standing alone in the quiet, spacious room. Breathing heavily with intense determination, she dramatically cries out while desperately demanding the universe to grant her power. Continuing her passionate spiritual plea, she begs the mysterious forces to please bestow absolute power upon her. Exhausting her lungs completely, she releases another heavy sigh while loudly demanding the immediate granting of power. Startled by a sudden unexpected presence, she immediately freezes in place as a heavy silence fills the room. Her worried mother gently apologizes to Mimosa, clearly concerned about her daughter displaying such strange dramatic behavior. Admitting her misplaced optimism regarding Mimosa getting better, her mother gently suggests talking to someone without pushing herself. Flustered by the awkward interruption, Mimosa quickly attempts to cover up her strange chanting by calling it a charm. Trying to justify her actions, she enthusiastically explains she was simply praying to become much stronger. Readily accepting the innocent excuse, her relieved mother happily repeats that it is indeed just a simple charm. Her mother states she understands while asking one thing before requesting Mimosa to run a magic stone errand. Mimosa recalls that magic stones operate all machines like batteries and turn black when needing a replacement. Instead of buying them in town normally, she deliberately heads toward the dense forest on the outskirts. Scanning the mysterious woodland environment, she quickly spots her targets and calmly acknowledges finding the wild spirits. Several small glowing entities hover gracefully above the grass as they silently observe their strange new visitor. These wild abandoned spirits naturally reproduce and become feral weak enemies, losing all connections with ordinary humans. Because the area poses danger, children who have not normally graduated from school are strictly forbidden entry here. She fully understands that she will naturally get heavily scolded if any adult discovers her secret woodland presence. However, she firmly declares that she currently has something much more important to be deeply concerned about. Remembering the impending timeline, she nervously notes that the actual game officially begins when she turns 15. She remembers that the demanding story begins with a fierce graduation match instead of a normal graduation ceremony. During that fateful future event, she painfully recalls getting completely defeated by Stella without any shred of mercy. Facing that terrifying reality at 15, she solidifies her absolute resolve to forcefully change her miserable destiny. Gripping her weapon tightly with immense determination, she mentally prepares to unleash her newly formed combat strategy. She realizes she must drastically raise her level to successfully win against her big sister in the match. Staring at the peaceful hovering creatures, she asks for forgiveness while claiming she bears them no actual grudge. Raising her tool decisively, she commands the innocent spirits to become the necessary foundation for their ultimate growth. Letting out a confused gasp, she suddenly pauses when an unexpected movement interrupts her confident initial strike. The agile spirit swiftly evades her clumsy attack by snapping out of the way with incredible blinding speed. She realizes things cannot go well initially because neither she nor Cairo possess any actual practical combat experience. Acknowledging their rock-bottom combat technique grades, she deduces their only viable strategy is utilizing a surprise attack. Leaping forward with sudden explosive energy, she aggressively ambushes the unsuspecting creature before it can fully react. Striking the glowing entity with everything she has, the successful impact scatters vibrant magical energy across the grass. Jumping triumphantly into the air, she happily cheers after successfully grabbing the highly coveted magical stones. She notes that wild spirits dropping magic stones makes leveling up a highly rewarding dual accomplishment. Fueled by her very first taste of victory, she enthusiastically encourages herself to keep up the excellent momentum. Letting out a fierce battle cry, she charges fearlessly toward the remaining feral spirits with newfound explosive confidence. Swinging her weapon wildly through the dense forest, she relentlessly continues her aggressive assault against the glowing targets. Breathing heavily after the intense skirmish, she proudly counts 1, 2, and 3 defeated spirits scattered around her. Taking a deep breath after her long journey, the determined young girl quietly surveyed the peaceful surroundings. Satisfied with her productive first day, she noted hunters could only capture 20 wild spirits daily. Despite remembering only half her techniques, she successfully reviewed her skills and easily handled little Cairo. Shifting her focus toward a more pressing matter, she nervously examined the massive problem before her. Looking closely at the strange mutation, she observed sharp thorns unexpectedly growing along the smooth surface. Knowing early forms were simple giant hammers, she realized these dark thorns appeared far too early. Connecting the timeline discrepancies, the anxious girl deduced her spirit was going berserk much faster now. Reassuring herself about the situation, she decided hiding the small creature inside her pocket was perfectly fine. Planning to sell leftover magic stones for pocket money, she excitedly celebrated hitting 3 birds simultaneously. Suddenly pausing her joyful celebration, the highly cautious girl noticed an incredibly terrifying presence looming nearby. Staring in absolute shock, she wildly wondered why a berserk warrior was wandering through this dangerous place. Trembling with sheer awe, she instantly recognized the fierce man as Holy Knight Leonhardt, the absolute strongest. She recognized Holy Knight Leonhardt as the strongest man and the half-brother of her bully Abel. Filled with nervous hesitation, she wondered intensely why he was suddenly standing in such a secluded place. The commanding knight stated firmly that she already knew how berserk individuals were subjected to strict regulation. She recalled that falling into darkness caused 2 visible traits, including black dust mixing into seeping auras. The fearful young girl remembered that the terrifying second physical trait always involved crimson glowing red eyes. Staring in absolute shock, she trembled slightly while analyzing the incredibly heavy tension filling the silent air. Gasping at the sudden development, she exclaimed in sheer terror upon realizing exactly what was happening nearby. The intense atmosphere thickened aggressively as she desperately tried to comprehend the overwhelming dark power surrounding them. Panicking immensely, she realized the situation was bad because a sinister black aura began escaping from Cairo. Sensing the overwhelming danger approaching rapidly, she noticed her trembling body instinctively entering a combat-ready state. She firmly believed the imposing knight was an enemy deliberately arriving to permanently restrain their chaotic power. Desperately shouting for him to stop and wait, she pleaded for a fleeting chance to explain herself. Believing she was completely discovered, she falsely assumed she had absolutely no choice but to fight back. Continuing her frantic yelling, she desperately claimed that everything he saw was not the actual terrifying truth. Gathering her remaining courage, she aggressively challenged him while furiously gripping her weapon with trembling, sweaty hands. The corrupted spirit hissed wildly while declaring fiercely that the approaching targets belonged entirely to its control. A chaotic struggle ensued wildly as dark energy surged aggressively through the incredibly dense and terrifying atmosphere. Crying out loudly once again, she insisted forcefully that the threatening display was a massive tragic misunderstanding. While terrified about Cairo being taken away, she passionately clarified that she possessed absolutely no attacking intentions. Deeply regretting her impulsive actions, she wondered miserably why she foolishly picked a fight with a knight. Observing her closely, the stoic man surprisingly commended her for successfully suppressing the dark energy using strength. He considered her ability a good skill while questioning if she was prepared to endure lifelong madness. Glaring deeply into her hesitant eyes, he sternly asked if she possessed confidence in keeping it suppressed. Startled by the unexpected interrogation, she eagerly nodded while confidently declaring her absolute capability to contain it. He warned that dodging church treatment meant spending her entire life endlessly suffering while tossed by karma. Staring right back with fiery determination, she firmly accepted the endless pain by declaring it was fine. She understood that abandoning Cairo would easily allow her to completely throw away her intense hatred and jealousy. Knowing those emotions were foolish choices, she admitted that losing them meant she would no longer be herself. Breathing heavily in the dense silence, she stood her ground courageously while waiting for his final judgment. He suddenly declared she was free because he intended to overlook the situation, prompting her confused questioning. The mysterious knight softly stated that she should easily be able to understand his highly unexpected leniency. Catching on to his subtle hints immediately, she gasped quietly while asking if he was secretly afflicted too. The imposing man slowly turned his head to reveal a shocking hidden truth beneath his calm stoic exterior. Stepping closer into the revealing light, he finally allowed her to witness his deeply guarded personal secret. She stared in absolute pure astonishment as she noticed his intensely glowing crimson-red eyes staring back. Letting out a tiny shocked gasp, she stumbled backwards slightly while processing the unbelievable visual evidence unfolding. Realizing his red eyes indicated a berserk state, she learned his magic stone ribbon disguised those signs. He surprisingly offered the magical accessory to her, causing the confused girl to utter a bewildered sound. After she worriedly asked about his safety, he reassured her by claiming he had another spare back home. Reminding her of the danger, he explained that without disguise she would be caught immediately. Gently praising her compliance, the towering man reached out and softly called her a good child. He assured her the item would fool anyone except those who had already gone completely berserk. Confused by his unexpected gentleness, the young girl nervously asked why he was being so kind. Staring down at her with calm eyes, the strong knight simply stated she had great talent. A heavy silence settled between them while he closely observed her deeply astonished and wide eyes. He explained her high spirit affinity was an excellent talent for aspiring to become a knight. Noting her strong willpower to resist madness, he declared them accomplices sharing the exact same secret. Wishing her luck in staying hidden, the tall knight turned away and prepared to finally leave. Panic surging through her chest, the desperate girl loudly pleaded for the departing knight to wait. Tears prickling her eyes, she realized someone incredibly important had finally acknowledged her deeply hidden worth. Staring at his broad back, she acknowledged the strongest holy knight stood right in front of her. Knowing this was her only chance, she feared remaining the weak supporting younger sister forever otherwise. Gathering every ounce of her courage, the determined girl tightly clenched her trembling fists in resolve. Stuttering through her intense anxiety, she desperately tried to force the demanding words from her lips. Lunging forward awkwardly, she loudly begged the surprised man to accept her as his personal disciple. Biting her tongue painfully mid-sentence, she awkwardly watched him repeat the word disciple in utter confusion. Apologizing gently for not recruiting anyone, the knight politely rejected her while she felt incredibly embarrassed. Refusing to accept his gentle rejection, she loudly proclaimed her desperate desire to become truly strong. Pausing his sudden departure, the bewildered knight curiously asked what grand purpose drove her sudden request. She panicked internally while realizing she absolutely could not confess her vengeful plans against their siblings. Noticing her sudden and tense silence, the confused knight gently asked the trembling girl what was wrong. Sweating nervously beneath his intense gaze, she frantically searched her racing mind for a believable excuse. A sudden memory flashed through her desperate mind as she recalled crucial details from the game. Remembering the original storyline, she realized this powerful man was destined to face a terrible fate. Blurting out wild thoughts, she boldly declared she wanted to perfectly save him from his future. The strongest knight questioned her ridiculous claim while she frantically waved her hands in sheer panic. Desperate to fix her massive blunder, she loudly confessed she liked him and wanted to help. Mortified by her insane momentum, she instantly regretted screaming such a massive and highly embarrassing lie. Processing her wild emotional confession, The stoic knight calmly asked if her feelings drove her desires. Nodding her head nervously, she admitted he was the only person who ever acknowledged her talent. Staring down at her blushing face, the towering man quietly asked if that was her only reason. She silently reflected that his rare acknowledgement was more than enough reason to develop fiery feelings. Despite his strict warning about harsh physical training, she passionately accepted becoming his literal punching bag. Calling him her ultimate life benefactor, the brave girl vowed to repay her massive emotional debt. Accepting her crazy resolve, he warned her he would only provide assignments and check on her occasionally. Overjoyed by his reluctant agreement, the beaming girl loudly celebrated securing her long-awaited and perfect chance. Wasting absolutely no time, the imposing knight immediately stepped forward to deliver her very first assignment. He strictly assigned massive daily sets of various basic physical exercises to build her knightly strength. Utterly shocked by the painfully mundane workout routine, the bewildered girl stood frozen in total disbelief. Swinging her weapon with immense ferocity, she confidently unleashed a powerful strike against her target. A massive impact instantly shattered the ground, creating a blinding cloud of dense dust everywhere. 3 months after meeting Leonhardt, she leaped joyfully while loudly exclaiming that everything felt amazing. Successfully maintaining her strict training menu, Mimosa happily transformed into an incredibly lean muscular body. Flexing her newly developed muscles proudly, she confidently declared that true physical power never betrays. Standing tall with her heavy weapon, she radiated an aura of absolute, unshakable physical confidence. Suddenly, a massive ferocious bear emerged from the dense forest, threatening her newly found peace. Running away frantically from the terrifying beast, she desperately wondered how things escalated so quickly. Staggering exhaustedly through the thick wilderness, she tried catching her breath after the intense sprint. Relieved about hunting beyond weak rabbits, she happily noted her combat level had slightly increased. Acknowledging that dog variants dropped abundant magic stones, she greatly appreciated their excellent cost performance. A sudden heavy rumbling noise interrupted her thoughts, making her wonder what caused the disturbance. Gasping softly in total surprise, she quickly glanced over her shoulder toward the ominous sound. A massive shadowy beast aggressively trampled through the thick underbrush, creating an intensely intimidating presence. Staring deeply into the dark, mysterious forest, she nervously questioned what on earth just happened. Uttering a confused sound, she suddenly noticed a helpless young boy cornered by a predator. Observing the massive looming creature carefully, she firmly deduced it was absolutely not normally wild. Noticing its glowing crimson eyes immediately, she fearfully realized the giant bear had gone berserk. The vicious creature raised its sharp claws, preparing to strike the defenseless boy without mercy. Shouting bravely to draw attention, Mimosa fearlessly swooped down to strike the aggressive wild beast. Her powerful weapon helplessly bounced away as she shockingly realized the monster possessed incredible hardness. Moving with terrifying unnatural speed, the massive bear aggressively swatted the young warrior entirely aside. Tumbling dangerously backward across the rough terrain, she frantically admitted the terrifying situation looked bad. Towering over its fallen prey, the immense beast roared furiously while establishing its terrifying dominance. Glaring fiercely at the towering monster, the brave boy quietly cursed the creature with determination. Slamming its massive heavy paws downward, the furious bear violently shattered the solid ground beneath. Acting purely on defensive instinct, the cornered boy desperately shielded himself from flying sharp debris. Watching the chaotic destruction unfold, she horrifyingly realized the beast was attempting to uproot trees. The enormous ancient tree violently splintered and began collapsing heavily directly toward the frightened children. Warning him about the deadly danger, Mimosa desperately grabbed the boy to secure his safety. Using all her newly trained physical strength, she aggressively pulled him from the crushing impact. As the thick dust finally cleared, the immensely powerful beast stood triumphantly among the ruins. Staring at the unbelievable raw devastation, she quietly muttered that the beast was absolutely brutal. She suddenly realized this exact bear was the specific boss Stella normally defeats years later. Sweating nervously over the broken timeline, she intensely wondered why it appeared incredibly early today. Filled with overwhelming narrative dread, she frantically questioned if this unexpected encounter would ruin everything. Suddenly, numerous feral wolves emerged aggressively from the bushes, completely ambushing the gigantic berserk bear. Letting out a loud, dramatic screech, she joyfully realized she never needed to worry beforehand. Analyzing the highly chaotic battlefield, she stated that surviving against so many enemies seemed unlikely. Watching the overwhelming pack overwhelm the beast, she enthusiastically shouted that victory was completely impossible. Realizing her mother and sister were there, she decided running toward the village was a bad idea. Considering her sister might manage the situation, she admitted their premature deaths would ruin her ultimate revenge. Annoyed by that particular thought, the frustrated girl quickly brushed aside the lingering doubts in her mind. Suddenly losing her footing during the desperate sprint, she let out a sharp gasp of pure shock. Tumbling wildly down the steep and treacherous slope, the panicked girl realized her situation was incredibly bad. Crashing hard against a towering wall of rock, she desperately wondered if she had hit a dead end. Confused by a sudden commanding voice, she was firmly ordered to stay completely down against the ground. Shrieking in sheer terror, she watched a blinding flash of silver strike the massive beast before her. Recognizing Lord Leonhardt immediately, the stunned girl safely watched him cleanly defeat the massive roaring creature. Wondering why he was there, she listened as he reminded her about his promise to check on her. Denying any doubts, she eagerly listened when the powerful knight assured her he had never abandoned her. Offering unexpected praise, he calmly noted that she had properly completed all the difficult assignments he gave. Agreeing softly with his assessment, she noticed him curiously observing exactly where she attached the magical item. Gently touching the stylish accessory in her hair, she shyly admitted the grueling physical training was tough. Explaining her creative solution, she noted the magical tool lost its effect if the central jewel was hidden. Recalling a recent memory, she remembered curious classmates asking where she got such an incredibly expensive item. Surrounded by admiring girls, she remembered them eagerly expressing their deep desire for a similarly stylish accessory. Downplaying its true value, she cleverly lied about receiving the cheap imitation from an older neighborhood boy. Cringing internally at her forced excuse, she silently admitted she could not think of anywhere else to wear it. Startled by his sudden movement, she froze completely when he ordered her to stay still and adjust it. Stepping back to admire his careful handiwork, the towering knight gently complimented how perfectly it suited her. Blushing furiously at his handsome face, the flustered girl awkwardly stammered out a quiet thank you. Regaining his usual composure, the serious warrior casually shifted the conversation back to more pressing and dangerous matters. Explaining his sudden arrival, he casually mentioned returning to their first meeting spot since they never picked one. Dealing with a charging horde of wild spirits, he handled the dangerous trouble before eventually finding her nearby. Pondering the strange situation, she curiously echoed his surprise about such chaotic events happening even in this forest. He explained that handling the sudden appearance of local berserk individuals and investigating similar cases kept him totally busy. Looking up at her towering mentor with genuine curiosity, she quickly asked if he had figured out the cause. Ignoring her direct question momentarily, he softly praised her impressive efforts while leaving her utterly and completely confused. Stopping her humble denial, he insisted her brave actions successfully stalled the threat and completely saved the village. Accepting his wise words about harmful self-deprecation, the relieved girl bowed her head and thanked him very much. Preparing to continue his mission, the strong knight asked what she planned to do while he investigated deeper inside. Bowing her head with fierce determination, she loudly begged the powerful man to please let her come along. Glaring down at her with intense seriousness, he sternly warned he would abandon her if she slowed him down. Swallowing hard under his intimidating gaze, she nervously agreed while noting his incredibly serious and uncompromising tone. Following closely behind him, she silently observed that this current crisis heavily resembled the original game's tragic situation. Recalling the plot, she knew Stella originally obtained the highest knight position by resolving this exact boss rampage incident. Connecting the clues, she wondered if these early events were secret precursors happening before the game even began. Investigating the empty bear den, the knight disappointedly concluded there was absolutely nothing unnatural to explain the chaotic cause. Explaining the anomaly, he noted wild animals rarely went berserk unless directly influenced by exploding and suppressed human emotions. She wondered if wild animals could still succumb to madness when placed under intense, prolonged pressure. The imposing knight calmly agreed, stating that her assumption was a completely fair way to think. However, she noted in confusion that absolutely nothing nearby seemed capable of causing such immense pressure. He warned her against speaking carelessly because those dangerous thoughts were still merely unconfirmed speculation. Deciding to drop the subject, he insisted they lacked time and quickly moved to the main point. When she questioned his arrival, he firmly declared that he came there simply to train her. Suddenly pausing his intense lecture, the tall man gently admitted he forgot to properly introduce himself. Standing proudly before her, he confidently revealed his name as Leon Hartgardner alongside his guardian beast Lo. She nervously admitted knowing his famous identity, prompting him to calmly ask for her name instead. Finding her courage, the young girl politely introduced herself as Mimosa while presenting her companion Cairo. Apologizing for the late introductions, they awkwardly but respectfully exchanged formalities and expressed mutual pleasure. As he offered to show an example, Mimosa excitedly anticipated seeing another incredibly powerful sword slash. Trembling with sheer excitement, she enthusiastically realized that learning his remarkable technique would change everything completely. Gripping his gleaming weapon firmly, the experienced warrior swiftly transitioned into a highly intimidating combat stance. Without any warning, he unleashed a massive surge of overwhelming energy that violently shook the atmosphere. Staring in absolute disbelief, she stumbled backward as the sheer pressure of his aura engulfed her. Questioning him nervously, she listened as he boldly proclaimed that humans reveal true potential when heavily pushed. Glaring fiercely at his new student, the relentless knight loudly commanded her to show him everything.